Hi there. In this Python for Marketers tutorial, I'm going to show you how to make an API call. So if you're in marketing, I'm sure you use a lot of tech, and most of it probably has a public API that you can utilize to automate or get data out of the system without having to use the UI. So I'm going to show you how to do that. And I'm going to be using Airtable today because Airtable has a free tier that you can use an API, so this is something you can actually try yourself. I do also have a lot of videos on how to do this with Marketo, but of course that requires it's a paid service, and not everyone has access to this. But everyone has access to Airtable, so you can try this. The first thing that I have up here on the screen is the documentation, and this is the biggest part of using APIs. Is there's a lot of parameters and kind of things that you need to understand to use the different endpoints. So I'm just going to be doing a very simple one today, where I'm just going to list all of the bases in a workspace. So that's what I'm looking at here. I can see that it's a GET request, and here's the endpoint that I'm going to be calling. So there's no, you can have an offset as a query parameter. We're not going to do that. But it is there, and this is going to show you how the response will come through. So really useful stuff to learn. Not going to cover it all that much right now, just understand that it's out there. So coming into Airtable, this is my tutorials workspace, and these are all of my bases. So I just want to get what all of these bases are, and it's going to pass along the ID to these bases as well. But before I do that, I actually need to create a authentication token or a personal access token. And all services do this differently. So again, if you check out the Marketo videos, they use a client ID and client secret that will generate a token. And here you just have to go in and create one. So I'm going to come up here, go to Developer Hub, and I'm going to create a new token, which I'm going to call tutorial. Here you have to add the scope. This is going to look different in every system that you use. This is how Airtable does it. So it's going to allow me to read records, write records, and I want to read the schema. So those are the three that I'm doing. For access, I'm going to type in tutorial and get all the current bases in this workspace. So this permission is giving me the ability to read records, write records, and read any schema within the tutorial workspace. I'll click Create Token, and this is going to generate a token. You need to be very careful with this because anyone who has this token can access your data. So I'm actually going to be deleting this after I'm done creating a video. I'm very old sometimes, but so I'm just going to copy this, and you do need to copy it because you can't ever retrieve it again. You'd have to create a new token. So I'm just going to copy. I'm going to paste this right here, which I'll get to in a second. But then I'm also just going to come back to Airtable. Going back to my tutorials workspace. Again, these are all of my bases. But now let's actually get into the script. So starting right here at the top, these are three standard libraries in Python, so you don't need to install anything, but I'm going to be using request to actually make the request, JSON to parse the response that we get, and CSV I'm not doing anything with right now, but I will in a future video, so that's why I have it imported. The first thing that I have here is a variable called PAT, stands for Personal Access Token, and that's where I just pasted what I generated in the previous. And actually I can get rid of this. This is calling a function from before. So ignore that. The first thing that we have here is the getBases variable, and I'm using that request library and a get. So if you recall from the documentation, we're going to be making a get request. Generally, you'll either do a get or a post. You can also do a patch and delete, but about 90% of any call you make is either going to be a get or a post. So we're just getting information. Here's that URL that we got from the documentation that we need to call, and we're passing along the headers of authorization and bearer plus our personal access token here. So I'm going to do this, and I'm going to print out the response. So we'll see here, I got a response of 200, which is great. It means that the call was successful, but it doesn't tell us much. So that's why this JSON library will come in handy. So going on to the next step here, I created a new variable called getBasesJSON, and I'm still using this variable, but I'm adding .json and then open and close parentheses. And now I'm going to print this out. So I'm printing the getBasesJSON. And this is better. This is actually giving us information. So it's returning a dictionary, which I can tell because it has curly braces on the outside. And here's the key of bases, and anything that follows that is the value. And this time a value is a list, and I can tell because it has square brackets. So curly braces or curly brackets are dictionaries, square brackets are lists. So lists just contain a bunch of items. So because coming back here, all of these bases will be in a list. So if you, I don't know, if you watched the previous video that I did about using dictionaries, you know that anytime that you have a dictionary like this, you can put the key into square brackets, so in here bases, and that'll return whatever that value is. So if I do this and I print bases, we'll see now instead of seeing the bases there, it's just returning this list. And you can also do that with, let me just comment this out, bring this up, with get and then whatever that key is as well. So bases, it'll return the same thing. So now that I have a list, I need to iterate through that. And I can do that very easily. I'm just going to get rid of this. And I'm going to say for base in bases. So again, bases is my list. I'm declaring that I want to call the variable base. And I can also see, if I open this up a little bit, I can see that it's a list of dictionaries. So for every time that it's an item in the bases is going to be a dictionary that I can use. So just remember that on the next step. So, and actually let me, before I even print this out, let me just print what the base looks like. So print base, and we'll see that it printed out all of the bases in there, and I can see that they have an ID and they have a name and a permission level. But let's just say that I wanted to not have it look like a dictionary and I just wanted to get the ID and the name. That's actually what I'm doing in this next step here. So I'm printing the base, and since base is a dictionary, I can print the key in square brackets. Then I'm just having a space here, and then the base name in square brackets as well. So now when I run it, much easier to understand. So this is just a simple way to get started. There's obviously a lot more you can do with Python and APIs, and in future videos I'll show you how to make a post request as well. But just wanted to help you understand, how to take that JSON response and kind of get through it. So you're basically going to be seeing dictionary and lists and strings and that type of thing. So I hope this is a good starter for you, and obviously Airtable I think is a great way to kind of play around and get more familiar. It allows you to add the data that you want and need, and like I said, just really great way to explore. So hope this helps.